Well, in 2024, the American Library Association tracked 821 attempts to censor library materials and services. So, in those, 2,452 unique titles were challenged. And this is not anything new. These numbers are up, but it's not anything that we haven't seen before. Routinely and regularly, people are challenging books and trying to remove them from libraries, schools, bookstores, where have you. And really, the question is not necessarily why, but does it actually do anything? And when it does, is the effect actually what they want? Because I'm gonna be honest, I routinely get lists from, I don't think it was Goodreads, but like, oh, these books were banned, or someone tried to ban these books. I'm like, hell yeah, I need to read that. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, so I actually pulled up a list of some books that were banned and kind of looked at them. One of my favorites was that even Lord of the Rings was targeted, of all things, by a religious group that burned them because it was satanic. And if you know anything about Tolkien, he was a very religious man. So the irony there is
Yeah.
is really interesting. So I think it's one of those things where when you look at these books, you see that the books tend to challenge the status quo. So you have dystopian novels like The Hunger Games being banned, or you have queer-focused books being banned. Um, and a lot of like BIPOC history, anything that reveals the bad history of the US. Even sex education books get banned, which is a huge, huge problem. So I'm curious, like, what do you guys think about why when books are banned, what happens?
Well,
Because I feel
I
like they don't achieve their goal.
I mean, one thing to note though is that according to the American Library Association, 70%, 72% of book bans come from pressure groups and government entities, which include elected officials, board members, and administration. 16% are parents, and 12% are other, which count for individual library users, teachers, libraries, and staff.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, my opinion is typically they do nothing. Like, oh, some people get riled up. A lot of it's just for show. But then I'd be willing to bet we could find some numbers on it if we spent a few minutes perusing Google that show when a book tries to get banned, sales actually go up. Actually, we might actually have a blog on that. Hold on.
It's a good idea. Because a lot of things was teachers actually found it really frustrating when books got banned because they could no longer teach that material. But otherwise, we see a huge rise in those books' popularity. You know, there's a whole thing. It is at least one person in every English class I have that has a sticker on their laptop or phone or tablet that says "Read banned books." It's almost a movement to read books that have been banned. And
So, so one of the things that I think is also important to note is that while it is like a thing that it's like if a book is banned, you probably would want to read it to understand why it was banned. It is also important to take into consideration the fact that like the banning of books still affects us and it affects our community and the books at some capacity. It's a lose-lose situation, in my opinion, because like number one, if a book is banned in school, then like a teenager, a child is gonna be like, what don't you want me to learn about this thing and potentially go to read it, which like the people that want to ban it like lose it, but also there realistically there's a lot of people in the entire world and like even in the country, even though people don't want to admit it, that do not have access to like the money to purchase books, that do not have access to the internet to be able to access these books, or even like do not like live in rural zones that do not have like a library readily available for them to go and borrow the book. So it does like a school, for example, like their school library would be like the only place that they would be able to acquire the book. And also like it really is kind of like arbitrary in a way of like how people in power want to have, and this is like book banning specifically like in school and school libraries and within this country, because like book banning like Malaysia, like other countries, means literally like it's illegal to own this book. So it's also very important to know that like book banning can mean different things in like different places and different contexts. But the Lorax was a banned book for a really long time. And the Lorax is not necessarily a queer book or a queer or a book that talks about sex education, but it talked about like environmental conscience. And that is something that at the time that it was banned, the like lumberman industry didn't want children to start thinking, oh, my dad that works at a lumberman factory is the one seller and it's a bad guy. So it's kind of like it goes with the status quo thing that you were saying, but it's not specifically because they're like at a specific topic,
Yeah.
or like because they are always like sexual material, stuff like that. It's really
Mhm.
because people suck and they want to
And
restrain access, especially from children, to know of a wider
yeah.
world.
I think a lot of it's, and I mean, we don't necessarily want to stereotype here, but I think a lot of challenges come from religious groups whose, uh, how do I want to put this in a way that Derek won't yell at me? Um, their beliefs do not encompass the entirety of the way humanity lives.
Yeah.
That's about as politically correct as I can say it. But however, on the excuse me, on the topic of book bans, I dug up a article from Axios from 2023, and there was actually a study by researchers at Carnegie Mellon University and George Mason University found that banning a book in one state actually leads to increases in circulation of that book in states that did not ban it. This increase often features books by lesser known authors, suggesting that new and relatively unknown authors gain a rise in consumer support, researchers wrote. So, by the numbers, circulations of banned books increased 12% on average compared to similar non-banned titles. So, the
Which is
moral of the story
wild.
is get your book banned by like one state.
That's actually something I've been telling myself and other people that because the novel series I'm writing is very real and has a lot of, not just queer stuff, but it talks about very heavy topics that not everyone wants to talk about, that I want to write a banned book because that means not only apparently is it great for publicity, but it also shows that I've done my job in talking about those topics that make people uncomfortable. I've done my job in showing how important it is to discuss these things.
Yashi, you've been quiet. What are your thoughts?
So, funny story is that my cousin and I talk about how my books may actually get banned in other countries, which I won't name because I don't want to actually be wrong. But upon talking to people of these countries, we realized that the topics I talk about were too extreme in a sense. Because I'm not coming from a place of privilege in a sense, and I talk heavily about that. Um, I talk about how like status kind of impacts the way certain characters work or, how they talk or present themselves or how awful their lives were when they were presented as these people in lower positions or in lower like status quo type of deal. Um I guess my thought is that I feel like more people are kind of coming to the point where they're like, yeah, we should write banned books. Like Rosetta said, it's not just for the PR, it's also for the fact that it's kind of this reward in a sense telling you that you did it. Like you spoke about something that made people so uncomfortable. Here you are getting banned in another country or another state or whatever. I don't know. I feel like that would be like a sort of badge of honor when that comes out for me.
So, I mean, I'm looking, and this is mostly United States stuff. The top 10 most challenged books in 2024 are primarily LGBTQIA plus content and claimed to be sexually explicit. Um, so I think that is typically what people tried to crack down on just because, there's a lot of Puritan culture out there where people, oh, you got to be pure and chaste and whatever it is, and they don't want kids to discover that, instead of watching what their kids read, they just must take this away from everyone else. So I think I'm not saying that you're wrong that things like that won't be challenged, but I think typically, at least in the United States, unless you are a queer topic or overly sexually explicit, I think those are what's primarily going to be challenged.
I feel
It
like
is a
also
queer topic.
a very important point to note is that like when we talk about like book banning, the majority of the concern right now, it is book banning in schools. So I feel like the we should like focus on like books that either have like something valuable to be taught like in a school or books that are directly like for school age children, because right now that's kind of like the people that are still learning how to access information by themselves. And this is like why it's so important for people that are pro banning books to restrain the amount of information that is coming for them. And a good example for this on a banned book that I happen to like a lot is This Book is Gay, which is great. And I don't care, it's for children. I fucking love that book. And I think I read it when I was 28. I'm 29 now, and I fucking loved it. And I think one of the reasons why it has been, besides being like the cover of the book is a ginormous like rainbow and it's called This Book is Gay, the reason why it has been so contested and so challenged and even banned in so many places is because exactly what you said, Tim. Like it talks very specifically about things that are not the exact box and category that a lot of groups of people, a lot of them which happen to be religious and affiliated with specific like religious beliefs, do not want like children to even be aware of. It talks about gender identity, it talks about sexuality, it talks about like bodily changes, a lot about like things that health class should actually like teach you. It talks about how to behave in society with people that are different than you, which is a problem for people that want to lead children when they're growing up to believe that everyone is exactly like them, or that people that are like them are not considered good people to be around. If like I'm trying to again be as politically correct as possible so we don't get yelled at. But that's it. And like if you read that, that's like something that I would have liked to read when I was a kid, that very casually, very directly says, yeah, when you like a person, and it could be if like you are like whatever child gender you choose to be, whatever, if you like a person that dresses like this, that dresses like that, that has these pronouns, and it like just kind of like talks about life and everything that you would want to know when you're like a tween developing in such a normalized way of just like this is all the types of human beings that you can encounter to life, that kind of like sends like I think like a shock to people that are not used to accept others in a way that they are equals to you, that they are in society to you, that they're not used to accepting the fact that it is okay to like be curious about your body. It is okay to ask questions. It's okay to contest things when you believe those things are not equating to what you're starting to believe, or like your personal choices that you're starting to make when you're like a developing child. And a lot of these times they use the umbrella term sexual content to say that it's porn because, for example, the book said, oh, if you weren't born with either female or male body parts, you might experience these changes instead of saying if you're a boy or a girl, because realistically, those things not always equate to one another. And that's what makes people scary, because it's you don't control the narrative.
No, that's
Scared,
a
not scary.
and that's a huge part. Like not only and and huge emphasis on what you just said about accepting other people in terms of identity, sexuality, etc. Some people ban books because, especially for children, because the behavior the child is having in the book, they don't want. So one of my favorite book series as a kid, Junie B. Jones, was banned because Junie was just a sassy kid. Her there was nothing wrong with the series. As someone who's read it, I can tell you it was a perfectly average, actually pretty good book series for like I think like elementary school children about being a kid and growing up. And there's literally nothing in the book besides her quote unquote bad behavior that should have it banned. And so I think that we when books are banned, not only do they ban these larger important topics, they micromanage what behavior children are exposed to. And, you know, by getting rid of a book like Junie B. Jones, that is just a girl. She's a little sassy. She has a little personality. And yes, she has tantrums. Yes, she does things that she probably shouldn't. But the point of those books is to teach kids how not to be like that and what how to handle those situations. But because those traits exist in the character, all of a sudden it's banned. And so I think it's just this big range of things that get, you know, taken away from children in terms of what they can learn. You know, you're not even allowed to learn about behavior and how to manage it. And that
So,
is just so frustrating to me.
a lot of these are banned under the guise of protecting children. However, a lot of books that are attempted to be banned are adult books. Um, is there such a topic where you think a book should potentially be banned, or at least discussed for banning?
I personally believe that with the banning of books, you are just hindering critical thinking. Um, Other reasons as to why books have been banned in the past have been because they didn't know if whoever reads it would understand the original message, and instead they thought that they were going to just take everything as face value. I recently learned that, which is absolutely insane to me, and again I can only like talk about books that I have personally read. I recently read that one of the reasons why they have like Handmaid's Tale has been banned in some places is because they believe that whoever reads it is going to think that the message is that it's okay for women to be property, which is absolutely nonsensical if you have even read like the blurb of the book and crazy. But I do believe that a lot of the rhetoric that is used is that idea of like, oh, I don't want people to take it the wrong way. But then you are just automatically assuming that like people are not capable of thinking critically. And by banning it, you're actually hindering them from developing the ability of making their own reasoning by reading the book. Like
M-
books should be out there, and then if you choose to read it, then you choose to read it. Like stop.
May I play
Stop.
devil's advocate?
Of
Oh no.
course.
Yeah.
We pay you to be the Dark Cloud, Tim. I thought you were the
Do
one that
you
said that.
remember, I believe it might have been episode 4 of this podcast, a particular book that you, I, and CJ talked about?
Oh shit. That's okay, but that's different because that's illegal.
That's di
Like
but
that's it. That is literally porn.
I
That
mean,
I don't think that like that would fit into the category of like a banned book. I feel like that fits into the category of like an illegal piece of pornography that shouldn't exist in the world in general.
I mean, it was technically a book, so I mean, I feel like it had to be mentioned. Like,
And it's under reasons why it should be a banned book.
I mean, the author was arrested for CPC stuff because of her own book. So, you
Yeah,
know,
that's something because that was something I had
or
already been thinking about that question of like if should a book be banned? And that was something I was thinking, like, well, what if the topic's like illegal? What if the topic is not even slightly educational? Like for example, the Communist Manifesto should not be banned. That is, you are allowed to decide if you want to read that or not. But if the content of a book is legitimately harmful, like CP, then I would actually consider banning it because you're not choosing to learn about someone's, it's not like, well, I'm going to read the Communist Manifesto to understand that point of view. It's like that's just actively illegal.
I mean, I feel like it's also more nuanced because, like, it's not even the content of the book or the topics that it touches. There's plenty of books that touch very difficult topics. We were talking about how all four of us write books that touch difficult topics, but like it's about how you touch it as well. I think like the particular case on like the disgusting human being that Tim was mentioning is because like it was like fomenting something that was actively harmful to children. There have been plenty of books around the world that have touched on the topic of abuse and have been able to condemn it, show it as an awful thing, not glorify it, not put it as something positive onto any capacity. I do feel like the line, if anything, should be drawn whenever it's something that is actively encouraging the harm of other people. But even then, where is that line? If
mhm.
you are someone that is extremely conservative, you would say that for a book that just encourages you to speak freely is personally harming them because the freedom of other people would mean that they would have to respect it and they feel uncomfortable with it. So that's why I'm mostly on the side of like books shouldn't be banned, and if they are, it's like it should be like something that is extremely specific, something that has to be extremely nuanced, like the again hideous human being that we were talking about. And like even then, kind of also like what we were talking about, like for the book to be banned, it should be in the library in the first place. Like it would have to even have got
This
into a
is true.
library. It's
It would
not
have to
a,
go into a library somewhere. Well,
yeah,
I
it's
mean,
not a,
things could get banned on Amazon as well.
yeah,
So,
but it's
Yeah.
different, and it's
and it did.
because it's against the terms of service. So it's like a book like that, I don't think would have ever reached a library
Oh no,
in the
no, no,
first
no.
place.
Yeah, I hope
I
not.
mean, libraries have romance, but I mean, I don't think I've ever actually wandered through the romance section, but I assume they don't have like smut,
I feel
especially
like
kinky smut.
I feel like there are some libraries, especially bigger ones, that could have things that will fall into that category, but still librarians are very specific on what kind of books they order, and they would probably vet like if it's something that's harmful, in my opinion.
Hmm.
I have a also like I've met librarians that have all librarians that I've met, I have been great, and they take a lot of care and dedication on choosing the books that they order for the libraries and stuff, unless they get donated and then they have to go over them, maybe they sell them, stuff like that. But it's like such a very very specific case that I don't feel like it's enough of a like pool, subject pool that is big enough to say, oh yeah, totally banning books has like a place in
Yeah.
the world and it should be
Yeah.
something that should be adopted.
It's kind of strange because my cousin and I were also talking about banning books that are politically uh extreme. Um, I say that with quotes because I don't know how to explain it in ways not to get yelled at. Um, but she was very much on the side of if we ban books, it encourages people to actually go and read it. And I was also like, if we don't, then we have no idea what's going to happen. Much like what Beatrice was saying. And I was like, I mean, I guess she has a point. Like, if you ban some of those political books, people are going to be like, oh, why are you doing that? What do you want us not to know?
So
I don't know.
one thing that we talked about in a different episode is that history is not only written by the winner, history is written by those who are willing to talk about it. And if we continue to ban books, people will eventually stop trying to write said books to some extent. And then those books that aren't ban worthy will continue to propagate and become more of the norm. So, if anything, it is more important to write a book that could be banned for the right reasons, um, than it is do anything else.
Well, yeah, and I think the fact that they want to restrict that knowledge means, even more. And I think recently I've seen a lot more authors say, I want to write a book that gets banned. I think there's a lot more people starting to get on board with that idea of I don't care if this book gets banned. I need to write this or that, or I need to say this and I need to say that. And I think self-publishing and all of that has made it easier for people to write and publish those types of books to begin with.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I think also a large portion of the author audience is also very liberal, I guess would be the word. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's absolutely a very strong conservative sect of it as well, but it feels like authors have traditionally been very liberal, um, going back as far as you want. So it just really kind of reflects how society has changed and how society views different topics. Kind of depends on what books are being pushed for being banned.
Oh, absolutely. But I feel like, as well, authors tend to write because nobody, not always, but like I write because how else am I going to tell that story? People aren't just going to listen to me ramble. And not everybody's going to want to talk about that topic all the time. So I think authors find writing a way to not only channel but creativity, but what they want to say and what they want people to know. And so by writing those books, they end up being able to get those messages out.
I feel like the moral of the story is that one person or one small group of people shouldn't control the narrative, period. No matter what that narrative is, no matter if we agree with it or not, we shouldn't let a specific group of people try to tell us what is real and what is not. And banning books makes it's a very strong attempt of not only controlling the narrative, but in basically slowly becoming 1984, which is redoing the past, pretending a lot of things don't exist or didn't exist, and then trying to control the way that the present and the future behave.
Well, that's why 1984 got banned.
I
Is
actually
the
read
I
that for
love
the
ironic
it so
part.
much. I'm reading it for the third
I
time.
need
I
to read it. They never made me read that in school, and I was kind of disappointed.
you had to be in the higher level lit classes in high school for that. But I read it for the first time this year. Um, yeah, hits a little too close to home these days.
There's an excellent, I don't remember who the illustrator is. I got the copy from my library. There's an excellent graphic novel that has the book. It's like super thick. The book, like every single line of dialogue from the book and every single scene is like the most accurate representation of a graphic novel that I've ever seen. Besides, like don't forget, it's a Junji, the one that he did that is like absolutely traumatizing. Is excellent. So for whoever's watching this, if reading like a heavy book is like a lot, the graphic novel adaptation is also excellent.
That actually makes me want to read it more. And I'm curious if my system has it, my library system, because that would make it so much easier to digest for me. I love a graphic novel. And those are actually another thing that gets banned quite a bit, graphic novels,
Hmm.
because they actually show those images.
I
But
was
No
gonna
Longer
say
Human is the book that I was talking about. It's also
Um,
good, but it's very heavy.
that actually reminded me, I was going to say, what are some books that you've heard of being banned that you would recommend? And I need to double check to make sure this was banned, but the ones I was thinking of was the graphic novel of the Watchmen, which is phenomenal. If you only know of it from the Zack Snyder movie, don't judge it. Please read it. It was ranked by like Times or someone like that as one of the like 50 most important books of all time, or 50
Mhm.
books you have to read before you die, or something like that. And it's a graphic novel, and it's up there with like some of like literature's greatest books.
Yeah, I
Helen
think
Moore's a
graphic.
crazy dude, but that was a fantastic, fantastic novel.
I've definitely had my friends tell me about that one. And I think graphic novels can do so much as well, as a medium. We're not talking about graphic novels today, but I think that their boldness and the ability that they have to like visualize words can make them an easy target, quote unquote, for banning. Because, well, you've shown the thing I don't want you to see. Same with picture books, like we were talking about. Because the images are there, all of a sudden it's like even scarier, which is to me just kind of interesting.
Another book that very ironically has been banned that I recommend besides the ones that I have talked about already is Fahrenheit 451, which is like the most
Oh,
hilarious
I
thing ever
love
because
that
it's
book.
about book banning. Absolutely extraordinary.
Or
I need to read that one.
if you can't handle, if you don't like books as much, which be kind of weird if you were listening to this, to be perfectly honest. Um, find a movie, I think it's from about 1999, 2000, called Equilibrium, starring Christian Bale. It is essentially Fahrenheit 451, but with guns.
Oh my God, I have to watch
Like
that.
literally,
I
like
love
I
I
didn't
anything
think,
even
with
know that
guns to
yeah,
existed.
anything.
yeah, it was kind of it was one of Christian Bale's first like bigger movies, and it's like the whole thing is like they're burning books, and like they're taking pills that like repress their emotions, and then they do gun kung fu. So
That's wild. That's
it
that's
I think it came
crazy.
out roughly a little bit later than The
Amazing.
Matrix, and I think The Matrix obviously overshadowed it because The Matrix was revolutionary for multiple reasons. Um, but yeah, highly recommend it. I have not seen it in a long time, so I don't know how well some of the action scenes hold up, but it's basically Fahrenheit 451, but with guns.
Yeah,
Um,
there's some crazy books that have been banned. I'm looking over my notes again. Like Anne Frank's diary being banned. Just I will never get that.
But it makes a lot
Um,
of sense because there's
Yeah.
a
like
lot
it
of people
makes a
that
ton
want to
of
control the
sense.
narrative,
well, I
Oh,
mean,
it
you
there
makes
are
know?
tons
people
of sense. But at the
that
same
oh
time,
it makes people of German heritage feel bad, and they don't want kids to know about it. And then there, of course, there are people who deny the Holocaust. Um,
the Germans own up to that. I have
oh
German
yeah, in
friends and
Germany,
I
yes,
see
they
it.
do.
They are like, we made a huge mistake, and they continue. Not only do they teach it in schools, children will go, children will take field trips to go and clean graves, or there are stones that are erected outside of homes that were holding like um Jewish refugees, I guess is kind of the word I want. And they'll go and clean those. Like that is something that Germany is is still doing. And as someone who is German in heritage, this does not offend me. It is actually very important to me to know about that stuff and how we can as a group be better people and not have that repeat itself. But some of the silly ones, one of the ones that I think is so silly is that Christine by Stephen King has been banned.
Not about
I'm like,
the car that kills people.
What?
yes. Like,
I
wait,
love Christine. She's my friend.
she's your
What?
bestie? I
She's my
have to, that
bestie.
is the one horror book I will read and I need to read.
You
I'm like,
should
wait,
also read Mr. Mercedes because it's like
Mm.
What?
the same, but it's just like the tool of the crime is a car. The car is not sentient, but
The
right.
it's
the
also
original
creepy.
Mr. Mercedes trilogy with I think it's Bill Hodges was really good, and
Yeah, 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 the Bill Hodges
then
trilogy.
spins off
Mhm.
the Holly series, which The Outsider was really good, and then I feel like each book has gotten progressively less good.
I haven't
That
watched
happens.
I haven't
But
read.
actually, Outsider was also a series starring Jason Bateman. I didn't watch it, but the book was really good. Although I feel
Bridge
like
to Terabithia was banned.
What?
which
Yes.
is crazy. I
I
mean, it
never read
traumatized
that.
me as a child
No?
Bruh,
because I was sad and I cried, but it was banned.
if you would like to be
Yeah.
traumatized, you should watch I think Guillermo del Toro did an adaptation of it.
Oh
I'll
Oh,
boy.
get you.
yes, that's
Yeah, yeah,
No,
yeah.
awful.
no, I'm thinking of Pan's Labyrinth. Sorry.
No, but there's a movie from it.
Oh yeah, there
There
definitely
Yeah.
is a
is.
movie of it.
The
Yeah.
movie was what's awful. Pan's
Yeah.
Library is amazing. I've watched it like 5 times.
Yeah. But
That
there's just
Persepolis was also banned, apparently. They both died at the end, which is makes it. This is crazy. This list.
some of the things that banned, you're like, what do you mean this was banned?
yeah,
Like
I'm looking at the,
Goosebumps has been banned. I'm like, what do you mean? That's literally horror for children. Why is it
I mean,
why
I
is
read
it
the
Still
banned?
strong.
first like 100 or so of those, like other than being quote scary, they're nothing.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
like, what do you mean that's banned?
If I was going to say it's probably because of some religious reason of like this is satanic, because that's the reason why Harry Potter was originally banned.
Which
Yep.
is funny because there's all you have all
Yeah,
I
you
just
have
think
like plenty of
well,
reasons.
no. I mean, I just think it's funny how like these groups are trying to like ban stuff, but they don't like get on the same page. Like, so there's groups in, we'll say, Florida trying to ban Harry Potter because it's satanic, but then there's groups in North Carolina who are using Harry Potter as example of like a Christ figure, and everyone's it's like, all right, well, I
What
gotta
is
pick a
it?
side here.
Which ones?
And that's why I think the what I mentioned at the beginning, the burning of like Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit is just such an odd thing because the religious metaphors within those stories are
Yeah,
very present. And
Yeah.
so a
yeah. I
a
mean, Gandalf was
religious
basically Jesus. Like, what are
yes,
you doing?
is he not? I'm like, is he not Jesus? Like,
Like
I
I
mean,
went to I forget what it was exactly, but there was like it was like a churchish thing and a guy was giving a sermon or whatever, and he actually like used that scene where Gandalf comes over the top with the Riders of Rohan as like I forget what it was about, but like he was literally using clips from the movie and it's like yeah,
right.
but no,
Yeah.
we gotta ban it.
Yeah.
You know,
Apparently we have to burn it too,
Yeah.
even more so, which is just so crazy. That one made me laugh when I heard it. I was just
the
like, what do you mean that was
the one book that kind of makes me sad that was banned, and this actually has a movie, and I watched it when I was a bit younger. Traumatizing, by the way. It's called Sold, and it's about an Indian girl or a Nepali girl who was sold into sex slavery, basically. Uh, and it's so odd that it's banned now of all times because when women's rights are kind of being stripped away one by one, and it's kind of one of those things where I'm like, do you guys not want us to read about this because it talks about how the girl essentially gets her life back. Like she fights tooth and nail to actually escape that brothel and try to reclaim her life. That movie actually made me cry, and I never ever cry when it comes to movie or books.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you can tell when they ban books like that they don't want you to know.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, let's bring attention to the thing that we don't want you to know about. All right, sure, defeat your purpose. But, obviously there are other problems with banning it that do affect people. So it's just one of those things where you're like, why do we do this still?
Yeah. All right.
I
Well,
do highly recommend it.
I think on that note, I think we'll close out here. So remember, if you're going to write a book, give it a good message, get it banned. We'll read it for you. And on that note, publishers behaving badly. It's not you, it's them.